You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Saving lives by selling collars, scrunchies, and swag. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That's BARKNWAG.com to see the awesome merchandise. Bark and Wag collars and leashes, collar covers, and decorative bandanas are perfect for your pooch. For the owner of the house, we have t-shirts, sweatshirts, long sleeve shirts, hats, and even coasters. We are expanding monthly, so be sure to check back. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise too, so send an email to polly@barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we're talking to one of our favorite vets, Dr. Laura Brown, owner of Green Tree Animal Hospital in Libertyville, Illinois, to answer a few questions. Welcome, Dr. Brown.
Hi, Polly. Thanks for having me.
Yes, so our first question today is, what do you do when your dog loses a nail?
So that happens kind of a lot. It can be pretty dramatic when it happens too, because they tend to bleed a lot. If the nail completely falls out, like you're looking at this like curled sheath, like hollow thing.
Sure.
That's probably the best thing that can happen, because once the bleeding stops, then you just have to wait for the nail to grow back. Sort of like when that can happen with a person's nail.
Okay.
Usually when your nail, like let's say you bonked your finger with the hammer and your nail turns black and blue, and then you have to wait and wait and wait and wait for the black part to grow out, right? For a healthy nail to come in.
Yes.
Same thing for dogs. They kind of have the same sort of thing, that at the nail base is attached to that first bone in their toe, sort of like our nail is. And so if it falls off from trauma, one, it hurts, but two, the good news is if it's the whole nail, then you just have to wait for a new nail to grow back at the base.
Okay. And how long does it take a dog nail to grow?
It could take weeks and weeks, sort of like our nails too. The bad part is if it doesn't completely fall off. So that's usually more the classic tale, is the nail breaks halfway down and just hanging by a thread, or, sort of splits up the middle and it doesn't all the way fall off. Then the dogs are going to be really bothered by that. Usually they lick, won't let it go. So then and sometimes they make it bleed more. But they're pretty lame too. They can be pretty sore and limp if it's one of the two middle toes.
Okay.
Because the two middle toes on all paws are the weight-bearing toes.
Oh.
So like if you break like your toenail, your big toenail, and every time you like walk, it might bump. Yeah, or it bumps into something, then that's when it hurts. For dogs, the two middle toes are their weight-bearing ones, so every time if it's hanging by a thread, they step down, then it jars it every single time till the broken piece gets taken care of.
Okay. And does it have to do with age? I've noticed that Chuck the Pug, who's 12, he loses his nails.
Does he? It's not necessarily age related. Pugs definitely hate to have their nails trimmed. I don't know why, more than other breeds. So it's more likely that a dog will break its nail if they're just way too long.
Yeah, I go every like 8 to 10 weeks. So I think he snags something on a walk.
Yeah.
Although he's not walking very much anymore. But yeah, I do make sure that he does get his nails done. But there are on Facebook like pugs getting their nails done, and
Why? I don't know why they hate it so bad, but they are one of the breeds that hate it the most.
So, all right, well, that's very interesting. And then if it is a bleeder, go to the vet to extract it, or what do you do?
Yeah, so if you're home and it's Sunday night and you want to do an emergency visit, then to stop bleeding, you try and put pressure, maybe a little ice. If there's a piece of the nail hanging that you can just grab it and pull it really fast, sort of like ripping the Band-Aid off, you should do it, but that's tricky. And because a lot of dogs don't like their feet messed with, that requires a little bit of extra help. If it's just broken the nail and it's not like way up at the base, sometimes you can make a homemade concoction of like cornstarch and water, make it a paste and stick it on the end of the bleeding part, and that'll stop the bleeding.
Okay.
If it's a dew claw, the thumbnail ones that kind of hang out, they don't ever bear weight on those. Sometimes you can like clean it up a little bit, a little hydrogen peroxide poured on there wouldn't be a bad idea. If it's still bleeding, with a little pressure, then you might have to go in if it won't stop bleeding. But they do stop bleeding, and a little pressure will help. But sometimes they're just so darn sore, they won't let you.
Okay. And have you ever had to put a dog to sleep to work on the nails?
Yeah, I have. I try not to, because it's such a short. It doesn't take much to get them. If it's hanging by a thread, the ones that need anesthesia are the ones that maybe are way up at the base and they're kind of cracked and they're really not hanging by a thread, but the dog just keeps licking and won't let it go. Sometimes we have to x-ray them, because if there was trauma to that bone that's underneath the nail, then that's why the nail's not right in the first place, and we need to take an x-ray to see what's going on with the bone underneath.
Okay.
That's not the normal, common, snag a nail on something trauma kind of thing, though.
Okay. Well, thank you for being on the podcast, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to do it. Talk to you later.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.